Hello, art fiends. Welcome back to the channel. You've made it just in time for a very special video on a very special day. For today is the only holiday that matters. It is Halloween, which means spooky season is at its biggest today. Now, I love Halloween, and I love art challenges. So instead of following a monthly art challenge, I actually asked my Discord, what are some Halloween themed art stuff that I can try to make a spooky video for you guys during this spookiest of seasons? I got quite a lot of suggestions. Some that don't fit my art style, some that didn't really interest me, and others that probably would have gotten me demonetized. However, out of all of those, there was one challenge that I really enjoyed. Because if you know me, I really like character design. And I love making characters and then doing absolutely nothing with them. Just designing things to exist, you know? So with that in mind, I actually received this challenge from a few people that either had the same idea or a very similar idea. So thank you to you guys who gave me this idea, because I actually ended up really liking what I ended up coming up with. If you want to suggest video stuff, you can join my Discord, linked in the description, and your voice could be heard and maybe you'll have input on a video I make. So that in mind, let's talk about what it is I'm going to be doing this video. The idea in mind was to take Halloween related things and turn them into characters. However, I didn't want to do things like bats and ghouls because those are already kind of characters if you think about it. Instead, I really liked the idea of going with candy and turning candy into characters. I wanted to make the characters kind of Halloween related as well. And a couple years ago when I did Inktober, I did Witchtober where I made a bunch of witches, and I really love designing witches. So I thought making candy into witches would be a great idea to combine all of this together. So I picked 5 popular Halloween candies: candy corn, Reese's, Twix, Kit Kat, and Snickers. Obviously, this is American candy, so if you're not American and you're in a country that does celebrate Halloween, you might have different candy. But this is kind of the candy that I grew up getting when I would go trick-or-treating. So with that out of the way, let's start designing some candy witches. First up on our witch list is candy corn. Candy corn is a staple for Halloween, but it is a very unliked candy by a lot of people. It's one of those candies that you only ever get during this time of year. I don't think anyone eats candy corn when it's not Halloween season. I personally love candy corn. And I know that's a controversial opinion, but I think candy corn is good, okay? So with each of these, I make a little list of things about the candy that can play a part in the design. So colors, their shape, and when I was coming up with a personality, I thought about how popular this candy is and possibly some marketing stuff as well. So with candy corn, I knew I wanted it to be very small since it's a very, very tiny candy. And as for personality, at first I thought maybe it would be kind of angry that everyone kind of hates it. But then I thought more so that it would be kind of this scared little candy where it's like, please like me, I just want to be your friend kind of character. And I thought that would fit well too since they are a very small character. So after a first failed attempt of sketching this out, I came up with a second attempt of a pose that I really liked instead. You'll notice in this video that my line quality is weird compared to some of my other videos. I'm using my backup tablet to draw these because my main tablet stopped working recently and I need to buy a new one because I don't have my warranty anymore. So this backup tablet has no pen pressure, so all my lines are going to be very even and a little odd compared to some other stuff, so just bear with me with that. So for all of these, I'm going to be doing a pose and then drawing the clothing on top of it and then doing some line art and colors as well. So for this one, I went with a very scared pose, and I also planned out things like a wand or a broom for some of them as well. I really wanted her eyes to look like candy corn, so I made them these like round triangles so they fit that triangular look that the candy corn has. And then it was designing the rest of her. Everyone's going to have a witch hat. And I also decided after drawing this one that everyone was going to have very similar outfits. They all end up kind of matching each other in some way. And honestly, I kind of think that they look like a group of magical girls. And I really like this idea that maybe this is their transformation into their candy forms, that they're little candy witches who transform from regular girls. And so some of the similarities is always a witch hat, and they always have a collared shirt on and then a high-waisted skirt. The length of the skirt differs, but it must be high-waisted. And then from there, a lot of the accessories and things change between characters. So for our candy corn, I liked the idea of keeping her hair in this flat form, like the bottom of the candy corn. And also, since the candy is pointy and triangular, I thought giving her those very pointy shoes with a very pointy tip, that would fit her really well as well. So in my line art phase, I'm kind of getting used to not having pen pressure on this tablet, so my lines are going to be a little weird. I honestly kind of like the look where it has a bunch of gaps in the little dotted lines. I know it's actually a very common style that a lot of artists do use, is leaving these gaps, but I think I just need to get better at figuring out when the gaps happen. A lot of my gaps just came because my stabilizer just stopped at that point for some reason. Hopefully I'll get a little more used to drawing with this tablet, and then maybe I can get a replacement of my good tablet. So colors, I start with all of these by color picking directly from my image reference of the candy, just so I have exact colors from the color palette of the real candy. And with candy corn, it's obviously going to be lots of yellows, oranges, and whites. That's what candy corn is. So when deciding where the colors should go, I do play around a little bit. I start with giving her blonde hair, since this is a hair color that people can actually have. And out of all the colors from the candy corn, that made the most sense to use as her hair. I then made her shirt white, again, part of the candy corn, and then this white actually ends up becoming a trope throughout a lot of the other candies, since you'll see there actually is white in a lot of the logo designs of a lot of candy bars. For skin, I played off the orange. Her hat, I really wanted to make it look like a candy corn, so I gave it these color blocks where it was yellow on the bottom, then orange and white on the top, so it had a pattern of candy corn. For her bottom half, I do change things up a bit. I take a bit to decide which colors should be what. I start with making her skirt orange, since in candy corns it's white top, orange middle, yellow bottom, so I thought mimicking that in her outfit so that her shirt was the white top and then her skirt's the orange middle, so making her skirt orange made sense. I then was unsure which part I wanted to be yellow, the stockings or the shoes, so I tried yellow stockings first, and I actually don't end up liking it that much, and I actually turned them white instead. I also tried brown shoes at first, but there's not really any brown in her color scheme, so I didn't think it really fit, and so instead I just went for a very unsaturated yellow so that it could still fit with the color scheme and have yellow on the bottom. So then I gave her a little bit of a magic spell happening from her wand, and that makes our candy corn witch. Up next on our candy witch list is Reese's Peanut Butter Cup. Now, Reese's Peanut Butter Cups are one of the most popular candies out there. A lot of people say that Reese's is their favorite. I know it's my mom's favorite, so I can say for sure I know people who have Reese's on the top of their list. Of course, if you're allergic to peanuts, I'm sorry, but Reese's is very good. It's not my top, but it is up top for me. I can eat a Reese's and be happy. So with this one, I again listed some things to help with my design, such as the color and the shape of a Reese's Peanut Butter Cup, which is a very round little cup. And I decided to base its personality off of its popularity so that it kind of knows that it's hot stuff. So it exudes a lot of popular energy, I guess you would say. So I then came up with a pose for a character like that, who would be a very charming kind of character that everybody loves. They have a lot of fans. I decided to make this character a lot wider than the other character, since peanut butter cups are very round. So I thought making this character on the rounder side would fit the look of a peanut butter cup. So like before, I just sketch out the body and a little pose, trying to make her look very cute and friendly and approachable. For this one, I decided to give her a broom instead of a wand. I actually intentionally swap between, so every other is going to be a wand and a broom and a wand and a broom. I like to imagine they all have a broom and a wand. They equally have the same accessories, but just for these drawings, I swapped between the two, just to keep things different each time. So after finishing the pose came the clothing, and like I said, they're going to have very similar things, such as the shirt, skirt combo, and a hat as well. But for the skirt on this one, I wanted to mimic the peanut butter cup little ridges, so I made it a really wide poofy skirt, and it's going to have 2 layers of frills and poofiness coming from it to mimic the chocolate outer edge and then the inner peanut butter. And it's also a wide skirt to also call back to the width of a peanut butter cup. For her hair, I went for this really big, poofy, curly hair. Once again, this is all to relate to how wide a peanut butter cup is. So giving her this big hair, I thought would really work well with matching the look of the candy. I just gave her regular buckled shoes on this one. A lot of them have very similar styles, since a lot of witches in media have similarly styled shoes, but hers aren't pointy since there's no triangular shape on the peanut butter cup. Just as a little additional thing, I put a little ribbon around her broomstick, just so her broom isn't just boring. So it's then line art time, where again, my lines are a bit shaky and missing some gaps, but I think I'm getting a little better with this tablet. I love drawing frilly dresses and skirts and things like that. I just have a lot of fun with the frills, so you can see me have a bit of fun drawing her skirt. So for her color scheme, when I was color picking, I take a lot from the packaging, so you'll see for a lot of the other ones too that I pick colors that's used in the branding as well as the actual candy. So Reeses has brown and yellow as its colors for the word Reeses. Those 2 colors were a part of the scheme, as well as the orange color of the packaging. And then, of course, the browns that make up the chocolate and the peanut butter in the cup itself. So first of all, I decided that I wanted her to be darker skinned. I really like the idea of making the peanut butter her skin. So her skin tone is actually based off of the color of peanut butter. With that idea, I made her hair the chocolate brown, that is the outer shell, so that she exudes the chocolate on the outside, peanut butter on the inside kind of thing. And I kept this going throughout her design. I made her skirt the color of her hair, the chocolate of her hair, and then I made the under part of her skirt be that peanut butter, but I made it lighter this time so that it didn't match her skin perfectly, so that you could tell the difference when placed next to each other. So for the rest of her clothing, I first went with orange for the hat, because I thought that the bright orange packaging stands out a lot, so putting it on the hat would make sense, but I actually ended up changing it later. But before that, I color in her shirt, and there's actually no white on the Reese's logo design, which there is white on a lot of other candy bars. So I decided to make it that same color I used for the underpart of her skirt, just so I could connect the 2 colors, and it also still matches her scheme with the peanut butter part. I then felt the orange was too striking on her head, so I instead made it yellow, like the logo of Reese's, and instead put orange as her leggings on her legs. And I actually think this works a lot better because it's not so eye-catching anymore. Like before, the first thing you would look at is the top of her head, and it contrasted way too much with the browns of her body. But putting it on her legs, you know, it's kind of now towards the bottom, and it's also underneath a lot of things, and it has the light of the underskirt to play off of a little more, and I like this a lot more, for sure. I also added the orange to the ribbon, just so it could be somewhere else as well. From there, I made her shoes that same chocolate brown, and just colored in her broomstick very simply. And with that was the Reese's Peanut Butter Cup. Time for our third witch. This one is a Twix bar. Twix is actually my personal favorite candy, so I may be biased. For this one, again, made a list of some colors, as well as the ingredients and some personality ideas. So since it's my personal favorite, I thought it would be interesting to have a character with a very outgoing personality, since that's what I have. And since the last character was like the popular cutie girl, I thought this one would be more of the like in-your-face kind of popular girl. For her shape, the Twix bar is very long, but it's also very fat because of the thickness of the cookie caramel combination. So definitely had to be taller than the Reese's, and not as wide as the Reese's, since the Reese's cup is just literally a saucer. And again, with this one, I'm swapping back to the wand for this, since the last one was the broomstick. So for her design, I started with the hair because I had an idea that it could kind of work like caramel, where it's very long and stringy and wavy coming out from her body, which I then will take when I come up with colors because her hair is now literally caramel. And again, she gets a hat just like everyone else, as well as the button-up shirt. However, I did want to start going in a little different direction for this one, and I decided to give her a cape, and the cape is going to act as that outer chocolate layer. So it's draped behind her, kind of like how the chocolate on the Twix is wrapped around the cookie. And I also give her a little medallion in the center, which I'm actually going to turn into that little logo that's on the eye of the Twix. Then for her skirt, I went for a very, very long skirt. Again, I'm relating this to kind of like an outer shell of chocolate around this cookie. So covering up most of her body with this cloak and with this skirt, the idea was to relate it to the coating of chocolate. From there, it's just lining it. And as I line, I kind of think of some color ideas. With her color palette, I again picked colors from both candy itself as well as the wrapping of it. So the wrapping has red and white for the logo, and the background is gold. And it also has a little logo that kind of looks like a pause symbol, which I'm going to be taking. And then the cookie itself has the chocolate, and then the cookie, and then the caramel colors. So for coloring her in, first up, I knew I wanted her hair to be caramel. So I started with making her hair this caramelly gold color. Then her skin, I picked directly from the cookie, and I gave her skin the color of the cookie on the inside of the Twix bar. Like I said before, her cape and her skirt are going to be that chocolate, so they will stay brown. But for her shirt part, I took the white from the Twix logo to put on her shirt. Since I am trying to relate all these together, and having the white button-up shirt was something I did for one of the other characters, and keeping it a very light color for sure is something I wanted to do. So the white fit perfectly there to keep the theme of these outfits going. And I also turned that little center medallion into that little pause button logo with the colors from the wrapper. So for her hat, I went through a few ideas. I wanted it to be the colors of the Twix logo, so the red and the white. So I started with just making the whole thing red, and then I was trying to figure out how I can bring the white into it. So at first I put it on the top, and I didn't like that, and then I made a stripe on the bottom, I didn't like that. And then I decided that it would be cool if it's just the underside of the hat. So in the logo for Twix, it has the white as like a stroke on the outside of the red words. So it works as kind of like a backdrop. So I thought making the underside of the brim of the hat to be white could relate to the whole idea that this is like the backdrop of the red, because the red is the big important part, and then the white comes next. So that's how I ended up with the white underside and then the red top for the hat. Now for her skirt, I wanted to keep it brown so it could relate to the chocolate, but I thought that having it be the same exact color as the cape blended the two together too much, and you wouldn't be able to tell that they're different. So instead I went with a more lighter brown, which kind of relates to the wrapping, but also kind of relates to the cookie. So it's still within this trend of these colors, and it doesn't go too far from the color scheme, but also still kind of makes you think about, you know, the cookie inside or the chocolate outside. Then for her shoes, I went with a very dark brown, again, the chocolate idea. And I didn't give her stockings this time. I just kept her feet her regular skin tone. Just because you don't see that much of her feet, I thought that giving her stockings didn't make sense since we wouldn't be able to see the stockings at all. So I just make, again, a little bit of some magic powers coming from her wand, and that is the Twix bar. Next on the list is the Kit Kat. I had a lot of fun with this one because Kit Kat has a lot of flavors. I know it's not that much of an American thing, but in Japan, if you don't know this, there's so many Kit Kat flavors. And when I was there, I bought all these different flavors, and my favorite one was the green tea Kit Kats. Another favorite was strawberry Kit Kats. Those are also very popular as well. So I thought it would be a cool idea to kind of have this character split in half. I thought splitting this one in half, where one side could be one type of Kit Kat and the other side could be a different type of Kit Kat, would be a really interesting idea for a character design. So on my list, I wrote down colors for different flavors, so I knew I wanted one to be the regular Kit Kat for sure, but which flavor was the other one, I wasn't sure yet. And I actually ended up going with green tea because the green is much more different from the red of the original brand than the pink of the strawberry one, because pink is just a lighter red. So to contrast the two, I thought green would go well, and green is also the complementary color of red, so those two colors always work well together anyway. As for the look of the character, Kit Kats are very, very thin and long, so I knew I wanted her to be a very thin, long character. But as for her personality, I thought making her kind of fighting internally with herself, where she has these two parts of her that are not the same at all, but they're still a part of her with the two halves of her, and they're kind of like innerly fighting. So I went with a pose where it shows that she's having this internal conflict with herself. And this one was broom, since the last was wand, so I had to add her holding her accessory as well. So then I just sketched out her body to show her conflict. I have her looking up and her arm up, and she's going to be grasping onto her hat. So for her clothing design, for her hair, I knew I wanted to be splitting her colors down the middle, so her hair had to have a perfect split as well, so I gave her a middle part. And to stick with the look of the Kit Kat, I made everything have these sharp square look to it, so she has kind of like this squarish long hair as well as her bangs and some hair coming up front, since a Kit Kat is a very square shaped candy bar. Since the flavors of Kit Kat that I'm going to be using are a mainly Japanese thing, I like the idea of just upping her cute factor in her outfit and going like full magical girl. So with that, it meant a lot of ribbons, a lot of bows, a lot of frills if I could, because I really wanted her outfit to be kind of cutesy and really push the whole magical girl part instead of more of a witch part. For her skirt, I went for the frilly thing, and again, relating to the Reeses, when I did that, I wanted the bottom half of it to be the little wafer cookie that is inside of a Kit Kat, while the top part is the color of the chocolate on the outside. I also decided to give her little suspenders that are holding up her dress, since those are long and skinny and rectangular, and so relates to the look of a Kit Kat once again. And then from there, I added just bows like everywhere. I put a bow in her back, and then it has these long, straight ribbons coming out from them, and I thought that the look of a ribbon really fit the look of a Kit Kat, so putting these on her really went well together. I give her long socks and some little pointy feet as well, and then add in her broom, and I put a bow on her broom as well to just accessorize that and to relate it back to the rest of her outfit. So I then lined her, getting a lot better with this different tablet for sure, and then it was color time. So I knew for sure I wanted one half to be the colors of the original Kit Kat, and then the other half I was going to make into green tea. So to start off, I decided to make her skin tone relate to the wafer cookie, since no matter the flavor of the outside, the inside of a Kit Kat is always the same. So giving her a skin tone of that inside part, so that no matter what, she always has that same inner part. And then for splitting her in half, the color of her hair is going to relate to the color of the chocolate on the outside of the Kit Kat. So her left half is brown, since it's just pure chocolate, and then her right half I'm going to be turning green to match with the green tea flavor. I also had this split happen in her skirt, and it's the same color as her hair as well. So for her shirt, the logo of Kit Kat has white and red in it, so I went with the white from the logo of the Kit Kat, and this again connects her to the other characters who have very similarly colored shirts as well. Now for her underskirt, again, I wanted it to be the wafer cookie, so I went with a little bit of a darker brown so it would not clash with her skin tone, but still be that cookie color. And then after doing that, I actually decided the white of her shirt was too white. I thought it stood out a little too much against her half and half color. So I played with it a bit and I decided that I am going to make it the same color as her underskirt. So just like the Reeses was, her shirt is now the same as that cookie color. Again, I think I changed it because I really like the idea where the symmetrical parts between her were the cookie, because there's always a cookie on the inside. And for that white, I instead just gave her white socks. Relating back to how I did the Twix bar, I wanted her hat to also be the color of the logo. And again, the logo is red, white, and brown. And the brown is really only in the American font. In the Japanese font, it just has red and white. So for her hat, I decided to put the red and white in. Give her kind of like a strip of red and then mainly white, because if you look at the logo, it has this big white circle and then the red font on the inside. However, in the American, it's got the white font and then the red outside. So either way, the red seems like the secondary color to the white to me. And also I felt that the red would not fit as well with the whole outfit as the white would, and that the red made a nice accent color, but not a good main color, specifically because she has so much greens and browns going on as well. Now, for the rest of her, I knew I wanted to keep that split, but I was unsure if I wanted the split to be the same color the whole way through. And after coloring it the same, I did not like it. I thought it was too clashing, like you couldn't tell what was what. So instead, I went darker. And I did like it at first, for sure. I made all of it darker, you can see. But I actually realized by the end that I liked it lighter. So I ended up going back and redoing it again and making them lighter. I think just in general, her whole scheme was already very light to begin with. And I thought that the darker colors didn't really fit the kind of witch I was going for. I was kind of not going for this dark ribbonly colored character, especially with the ribbons being the dark color. I thought that the lighter color for the ribbons worked a lot better. And I think they stand out a little more too on her body. Her ribbon also was originally red, but just putting that bright red in the middle of her chest, I didn't like how it looked against the rest of her body. So I ended up splitting that in half too. And instead I gave her red shoes since her socks were white, and that matches her hat, which is this red and white. So she has red and white on top and red and white on bottom to match to the logo of a Kit Kat. And I gotta say, I really do like how this ended up. Having like a perfect split character is odd for character design, but I think it works pretty well. And she successfully came together. So with that, here's our Kit Kat witch. Our last candy witch for our video is the Snickers. So I feel like a Snickers bar is one of those that people will eat, but I don't know a lot of people who say Snickers is their favorite, you know? It's very much similar to the Twix bar. It's made by the same candy company, but instead of the caramel and the cookie in the chocolate, this has the caramel and the nougat, as well as peanuts in the chocolate. It's a similar looking bar to the Twix bar in its shape. The ingredients they share with the chocolate and the caramel, but then there's some other differences there as well. So with that in mind, when taking my notes, I wrote the colors down with the logo colors and the candy bar colors, as well as, you know, some stuff about the personality. It's a very neutral candy where you get it, you'd be happy. With that in mind, I thought giving it kind of this very neutral personality would be nice, where it's just very calm and kind of just there for the ride. Because of its similarities to the Twix bar, I thought it would be interesting if they were sisters. So I'm going to be pulling up the Twix design a few times throughout this so I can see what I did for that one, because I will be trying my best to match them, but also have some differences between the two. So I first come up with her pose. Like I said, giving her a very neutral stance, nothing crazy. I wanted her body shape to be very similar to Twix, since they look very similar, as they are both long and pretty chunky with the stuff going on the inside. Her hair, I wanted to be caramel again, just like the Twix bar was. I liked that idea a lot, so I gave her this wavy hair again. However, just to make sure they were a little different, I first parted her hair differently, and her hair is going to be shorter than Twix's was, just so there's a bit of differentiation between the two characters. And like I said at the start, if these are kind of their magical girl forms, when they're in their human forms, if they had two different hair lengths, then it would be a little easier to tell them apart. So since a Snickers has peanuts in it, I tried a bunch of different things to try and show Peanut in her design with like little bobs and clips and things like that that are kind of Peanut shaped. However, in the end, I do decide to just go with the cape again with the little circle in the middle, since I realized I was trying to make her look a little bit like the Twix bar, so keeping some elements from the Twix bar's design in her made sense. I make her cape shorter. I think in general all of her outfits gonna be shorter than the Twix design was, to again just differentiate between the two of them. But I also give her a little hair clip so she has a little bit of the Peanut in her hair, and her skirt is gonna be shorter. This one doesn't have layers since the Twix one didn't have layers, but it's just gonna be a bit of like a little wavy shorter skirt. And I give her boots this time. None of the characters have had boots yet, wanting to change things up and showing her being different from everyone else. So then it was line art time. Again, just doing my best. And then it was coloring. So I picked the hair and the skin from the Twix bar, that caramel hair and the cookie that is the Twix, but for this one it kind of plays as the nougat, since it's a very similar color in the scheme of things, you know, the nougat and the biscuit color. From there, I took the white from the Snickers logo and put that in her shirt, and then to match it to the Twix, where for the hat it was the red top hat, and then on the inside it was white. For this one I went with blue, since Snickers logo is blue, but it also still has white in it. So her witch hat is blue, and then the underside is pure white. Now her cape, first I made it a different color than the Twix was, this darker brown, but I realized that I did kind of want them to match, so I made it the same brown as the Twix, and the same goes with the skirt. Again, I'm purposely trying to make them look similar at this point because I kind of want them to be sisters, so having their outfits have very similar color schemes, except for maybe in a couple places. That way you can really tell, yeah, they're related. These are matching sisters. But that dark brown I did end up putting in her boots, just so I could put it somewhere, because the candy bar wrapping is this dark brown, so I just wanted to put it somewhere. Just to change her a bit from the other one, I added some little dots on her skirt, and this is again to relate to Peanuts, and she already has like the 2 clips on her body. I thought giving her little dots on her skirt to relate to this as well would be a little cute addition, and just change her up from the other one a bit more as well. And then I gave her some magic power. The red comes from the red in the Snickers logo, which I did use on her eyes as well, which is something else that is different from her sister, because the Twix bar has light eyes. But the Snickers logo has 3 colors in it, so I wanted to get the red in somewhere. So after that, that is our design for the Snickers bar. Well, that makes 5 witches based off of candy. This was a really fun challenge, and it definitely fits in with the Halloween theme. My character designs did come out very cute, but I tend to do that with a lot of my designs, and in the end, these were kind of magical girls, so the cuteness factor kind of works. Let me know your thoughts on these characters. Who's your favorite design based off of these candies, and what's your favorite candy? Let me know in the comments down below. So while this is the end of spooky season, there's always next year, and maybe next year I will do the full Inktober, but don't hold me accountable if I don't. Like I said in the beginning, this was a idea given to me from my Discord group. So if you would like to submit ideas for videos, join my Discord group, and you can leave your own suggestions for things you might want to see. With all of that in mind, I hope you all have a fantastic Halloween. Like, comment, share, subscribe, all of the things that the YouTubers say. Peace.